And welcome back to the Sports Night interview. Today we are joined by the athletics draft expert, Dane Brugler, kind enough to join us here. And Dane has a story up on The Athletic right now where he goes through his all-rookie team right now through the midway point of the NFL season. So, Dane, we appreciate you making some time for us today.
No, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Now, in the story, you mentioned there are 250 rookies that have stepped on the field so far this season. And you also pointed out that there's a few out there that have really separated themselves from the rest, and that's who you chose to be on this all rookie team. Let's start with the quarterbacks. You went with Jaden Daniels. What is it? Why is it, or what have you been most impressed with about what you've seen from Daniels so far?
Where do you start? And Daniels has been awesome this year, and I think it starts with just his calmness. He plays with a level of poise that is so impressive for a rookie. Now he's an older rookie. He was a fifth year guy in college, 5 year starter, and I think quarterbacks in college should be looking at that and say, okay, you know what? He took his licks in college. He got better and worked through a lot of his issues while in college. And now in the NFL, he's ready to hit the ground running instead of trying to develop at the NFL level, which is it's hard to do. But Jaden Daniels deserves so much credit for what he's been able to do so far. Obviously, he leads all rookies in a lot of these passing categories: yards, completion percentage, total touchdowns. But again, it's just the smoothness, the level of calmness that he plays with, where he's not turning the ball over at a high clip. He's able to create these explosive plays, and then you just look at the team success. The Commanders are 7-2.
Yeah.
Their over under coming into the year was at 6.5, so they're already cashing in for teams or for people that believed in this team. So it's been just a really impressive start for the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah. Now, in your story, you also had an honorable mention, or not an honorable mention, I should say, a runner up for each of the positions that you chose. Now, for quarterback, you have Bo Nix.
Mhm.
You also mentioned that it was very close with him and Caleb Williams, but ultimately, what was it that pushed you towards Bo Nix versus Caleb Williams?
Yeah, and I was surprised that I went that direction, to be honest with you. But when I'm doing this exercise, I'm basically erasing in my mind what we thought of these players coming into during the draft process, where they were drafted. This is just based off of what they've put on NFL film.
Yeah.
And I think when you watch Caleb Williams play, you see you see the talent. I mean, there's no wonder why he went number 1 overall. But the operation of that offense is just it has not been consistent. And Bo Nix hasn't been, I wouldn't say great either, but he has at least been more creative and more explosive with the way he's creating some of those plays. He's responsible for 33 plays this year of 20 plus yards. That's number 2 in the entire NFL, behind only Lamar Jackson. And so for me, that's why Bo Nix gets the edge, even if it doesn't always look pretty with him. I still have questions about, okay, can he be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, top 12 quarterback in the NFL, somebody that is going to lead the Broncos to compete for division titles? Those questions aren't answered yet. But where we are right now, halfway through their rookie seasons, Bo Nix gets that edge as being the number 2 rookie quarterback right now. Caleb Williams right behind him. And then Drake May is on their heels as well, because
Yeah.
the way he's played the last 4 games, that's a player that we're going to be watching closely the second half of the year. Doesn't have a ton of help around him, but he is still making things happen because of the way he can use his legs, the way he'll push the ball downfield. Some of the reckless decisions that we saw in North Carolina still show up, but he's a young player working through all of that. So these rookie quarterbacks will be fun to watch the second half of the year.
Now, the wide receiver position was another one like quarterback where we saw a lot of those names go early in round one, and there were plenty of good options with Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Harrison, Odunze. How do you think overall this group has transitioned so far to the NFL?
Better than most years. I mean, I can remember not that long ago we were talking about wide receiver as being one of those positions where it took time. It's not an immediate hit the ground running. To get that chemistry at the NFL level, to for these guys to understand how to beat press coverage. I mean, there's all these different variables why we didn't see receivers necessarily be immediate stars. But that's changed a lot with the modern day offense, and this draft class it really shows that. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. maybe has not been to the level that some expected, but he still has, he leads or he's tied for the rookie lead in touchdown catches. Brian Thomas, for him to fall to 23, the Jaguars got an absolute steal
Mm.
with the way he's played this year. Malik Neighbors, if not for missing 2 games, his production would be out of this world. He's still, even though he missed 2 games, he's still number 2 in the entire NFL in targets. You look at the production that he's been able to put up with, put it kindly, an inconsistent passing game in New York.
Yeah.
It just speaks to his talent and what he's able to do. So, yeah, this receiver class, we knew it obviously in the spring how good this receiver class was. We saw 3 go in the top 10, 4 go in the top 25, and up to this point, all 4 of those guys, I think you get really excited about what their future looks like. But especially those 2 LSU guys, Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, those 2 have been the best rookie receivers so far.
Yeah. Now, I don't want to leave any of the defensive players out of the conversation. So I want to ask you about cornerback. And you point out in your story that 22 rookie cornerbacks have played at least 100 snaps so far this season. And you also say that it's been very competitive as far as who you were able to decide to go with ultimately with your top cornerback so far. So go ahead and tell us who you have as your all rookie team cornerback right now.
I went with Quinyon Mitchell from the Eagles, who number 22 overall was viewed as the top corner by several teams in this draft. And he's dropped a few interceptions. It hasn't all been perfect, but from game one to now, he has been the most consistent of these rookie corners. And his ability to really get better every game, that's what's really stood out to me. You look at especially these last 3 or 4 games, he has been outstanding. No interceptions, but he's tied for the rookie lead and passes defended. He's avoided penalties, so he has been a quality starter and looks like he's going to be a really good pick. But yeah, I mean, like you said, this is a corner class, at least up to this point, where you can make an argument for a lot of guys, and a lot of these guys are nickels. It's been really impressive what we've seen from this rookie nickel corner class. The Andrew Phillips for the Giants, Tyke Smith with the Bucks, Quinyon's teammate in Philadelphia, Cooper DeJean, who has only played 4 games, but he has been outstanding in those 4 games, playing at a really high level. Kamari Laster has been great with the Texans. Beanie Bishop leads all rookies with 3 interceptions. He was an undrafted free agent coming out of West Virginia, but he got his hands on the football a lot last year in college. He's doing it again now this year with the Steelers. So this is a corner class where a lot of different players have been able to play and get on the field, and a lot of them have played pretty well. So this has been a really competitive group if we're trying to narrow down, okay, who's been the best corner so far this year among the rookies.
Yeah, obviously you spend a lot of time analyzing and dissecting all of the prospects as they go into the draft. Now, as you look at this year's draft class, now that they've had a few games in the NFL, is there any particular position group that has surprised you and has played well as a whole, or is there a group that you thought going into the draft and going into the season you thought would perform well and really has been what you thought they would be?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these positions have been exactly what we thought they would be. We mentioned receiver, linebacker wasn't a great class, and I think that's held up. Maybe on the flip side, a position that's maybe it's been a little bit mixed. Edge rusher, where Jared Verse has been outstanding for the Rams. He came in and the power that he plays with, the motor that he plays with, he has played extremely well for the Rams. But the other edge rushers, Liatu Latu with the Colts, who was the first defensive player drafted, it's been a little bit of a slower start for him. Dallas Turner with the Vikings. I mean, he's struggled to see consistent playing time up to this point. Now that maybe they don't necessarily have needed him to, but still, you would expect more from your first round pick, a top 20 pick. Chop Robinson from Miami, he just had a sack this last weekend, but it hasn't been immediate. So I think the pass rushers, we love what we see from Jared Verse, but the rest of these pass rushers, it's taken a little bit longer than maybe some people expected for them to hit the ground running.
Now, before I get you out of here, I just want to kind of ask you some of your thoughts on the 2025 draft, because we
Mhm.
are at the point in the season now where fans of teams are already looking ahead. They're doing mock drafts, Dane. So they're starting to think about the future already. Right now, it's the Patriots who hold the number one pick, but there's a bunch of other teams right there with them at 2-7, 2-6. So I know it's hard to predict at this point who may go number one overall. But when you look at kind of some of the teams picking near the top, who are a couple of the names that you think are good candidates to go number one overall in the 2025 draft?
Yeah, I mean, where we are right now, I think Travis Hunter, the athlete from Colorado, and I say athlete because some teams will see him as a corner, some might see him as a receiver, some see him as both potentially. I think he would be the favorite right now to be that number one overall pick. He's just a special, special athlete. The ball skills, the ball instincts are well above average, well above what I think we see from most players. So he's going to go high. The big question will be: do we see a quarterback go this early? I think especially if you're a team like the Patriots, for example, they have their quarterback in Drake May. So if they finish with the number one overall pick, you're going to be really rooting for, say, a Cam Ward from Miami, who the Hurricanes are undefeated. They're going to have a spot in the college football playoff. You're going to be rooting for Cam Ward to play really well throughout the process. So all of a sudden, your phone's ringing for maybe a trade up to number one. And so will we see one of these quarterbacks emerge as a no doubt about it, top 10 pick, could go number one overall? Right now, that's just not how teams talk about these guys, whether it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Do we see any of these other quarterbacks come out of this mix and compete for one of those spots? Garrett Nussmeier could very well be in that top 15 conversation when it's all said and done. He might go back to school. We'll see. Jalen Milroe from Alabama. So this isn't, last year we knew that, okay, Caleb Williams is going to go high. Drake May is going to go high. Jaden Daniels emerged as, okay, yeah, he's a legit top 5, top 10 quarterback. This year, with at least where we are right now, early November, we don't have, or teams don't talk about these quarterbacks in that same light. There's none of these guys are slam dunk top 10 picks. That doesn't mean they won't end up there. Quarterback desperation is a real thing. Quarterbacks will grow on teams and especially the guys making the decisions. So, we could very well see one or two of these guys go top 10. It's just a matter of how do the next few months play out. And I know, like I said, a lot of those teams, like say the Patriots, are going to be rooting for some of these quarterbacks to really emerge as legitimate top 10 picks. So maybe there could be some trade action at the top. But if we're not talking quarterbacks, Travis Hunter at the top. There's a couple pass rushers, whether it's Mikael Williams from Georgia, his teammate Jalen Walker is up there as well. Abdul Carter from Penn State, James Pierce, a couple defensive backs, Will Johnson from Michigan, Malachi Starks from Georgia. So this is a draft where I feel pretty good about the top 12 to 15 players in this draft. It's just there might not be many quarterbacks that teams are choosing from at the top of the draft.
Absolutely. Be interesting to see how it all plays out. Dane Brugler, everybody, we love following your work. Draft expert for the Athletics. Thank you so much for your time today and for all your insight.
Anytime. Thanks, Evan.